Welcome back. I am Matt Meldrum,
I'm Thom Bowers,
and we are Sons of Nothing.
and we are neck deep, shoulder, neck. We're very deep into this debut redo thing, the reissue of Sons of Nothing's long lost first album, which we have been talking about for the last two episodes. And now we are talking about tracks 7, 8, and 9, which means we're halfway through the album. If this was a vinyl thing, this would be where you flip it over.
Yeah, I am more than neck deep. I've got I've got all of the straws that I've collected over, several months. I'm breathing by those right now.
Yes, just to keep the thing with the thing.
Just trying to keep up.
Yeah, that's right. What is the CJ Craig quote? The water is at my head.
It's exactly at my head. That's
yes. Right. Speaking of flipping, we'll start with this. At some point, a switch flipped in the course of this project where the slope steepened significantly. And it went from just, we'll record a song to, we'll maybe do a few things with the backing tracks to, that'll be a hodgepodge of stuff. And at some point, and it actually happened since we've recorded the last commentary episode, where we full on committed to the idea that every single song needed to be reworked as much as we possibly could get away with. And really, you were kind of the instigator of that. And so I'd like to know what it was that made you realize that there was the point of no return had been reached.
Oh, that's a good question. We definitely did flip on stupid mode after a while, and I am to blame for that. When we decided to go track by track and do something with them, and we had such good success in those first few with just what we did, that it just seemed a shame to do anything less with what was coming up.
Yeah, no song left behind.
Yeah,
sort of became the credo. And I can tell you exactly where I think the switch flipped, and it was between track 7 and track 8, both of which we're going to talk about tonight. Let's just get started with track number 7, The Big Truth.
Day by day, we tell ourselves we're getting stronger.
Somebody was listening to a lot of Fish when they wrote the lyrics to this song.
No, well, I mean, Marillion in general. I mean, if that chord progression is anything to go by.
Yes, I mean both words and music, but words definitely I'm hearing some Fish in there, and then musically, yeah, I'm feeling a clutching at straws vibe.
Yeah, there's the last straws in there, and I think Alone Again, the Lap of Luxury's in there a little bit, and there's some other thing that I was doing with the chorus. I don't really remember where the music came from. I don't remember particularly saying I'm going for a Marillion thing, but I was very steeped in Fish's solo albums at the time, very much so. This was the mid-90s. And the lyrics actually came first and started as an ode to a radio station. There was a talk radio station in Utah in the mid-90s, Super Talk 1320 KCNR. And this was the first time I'd ever heard talk radio that I felt spoke to me as a guy in my 20s. A lot of the folks who ran the station and who were the hosts of the station, that wasn't the syndicated stuff, the local hosts, were folks who were around my age. They were younger, and they had, these very sort of Gen X points of view about things. And it was a lot about, it wasn't just about politics the way talk radio tends to be sometimes. There was all kinds of pop culture talk, and it was this great sort of tribal, local, it was almost like a music scene. It was like a rock and roll awakening for me, almost as much as when I first discovered rock music. I mean, spiritually, I don't want to make it sound all melodramatic, but it was important, this station, to me. It was really cool. It was community, and it was a really cool artistic thing. And it went away. It was bought out and replaced by Radio Disney toward the end of 1996. And I was pretty bitter about it for a pretty long time, because the people who worked there, all the creative talent there, just sort of scattered and went their separate ways, and the whole thing never really came together again. Now, some of those folks have turned up in other places and done really great work. Rick Emerson, who moved to Portland and did a show there for a really long time. Clyde Lewis, who still does Ground Zero. And both of those people loom fairly large in the Sons of Nothing legacy as well. Rick was the Pander 103 DJ on Clarity, the title track from Clarity, and Mr. Sirius on that same record is also inspired by Clyde Lewis and is sort of dedicated to him. So I've got a big history with this, and it's proved fertile ground for songwriting. So it started with me just being angry about that. And then it sort of moved out into this more generalized angst. Like, wasn't there a song on Almost Paradigm that you said started off as you were upset about a politician or something, and then it became a general state of the world thing?
I think actually Ricochet started with me being angry. It wasn't even about a politician. It was about some guy who was being rude in a line at a fast food joint.
Yeah, see? From these tiny acorns, the mighty song oak can grow. So it just became a sort of general angsty state of the world thing. And this is 90s state of the world. So a lot of it's just in my head. The older you get, the more you understand and the more you realize you don't know. And that's either like really zen or really terrifying. I don't know. But the point is, that's where it started. And that was the impetus for the song. And so when we re-recorded it, one of my very favorite things about the re-recording that we did on this song was that we were able to take in the time between writing the song and now, I managed to acquire a broadcast from KCNR, recording of their last day on the air. And this is a snippet of the Martin Davis show. And he was actually sort of speaking in code there, because this was November 1996. And he's talking about the storm clouds are gathering and winter's coming. And we all want to remember what a great year this was. And it was all, kind of about the whole thing ending, which I didn't know when I heard it the first time. So I was so happy that we were able to throw that in there just to hit the nail on the head. And also because this record doesn't have nearly enough spoken word stuff in it.
Speaking of that kind of thing, this is probably the most progressive leaning of all of the songs on the album. We already talked about Marillion, but this is a prog song more than any other song on the album. It
stayed in the set list for a long time. I wrote it when I was in the Rain Kings, but I don't think they played it, or they maybe played it a couple of times. But Sons of Nothing played this song for a couple of years because it was more in the direction that I think we all wanted to go.
Yeah.
So it hung on a little longer than a lot of the songs from this record. And my favorite thing, my very, very favorite thing, is the bridge of this song contains a synth break, which I played originally. And I was all gearing up to sort of ask, Matt, if you wouldn't mind, if you could sort of try and kind of get the same spirit of that synth of my original thing. I'm actually really proud of that. It's one of the very few things I'm super proud of on the first record. And you didn't even have to be told. You went ahead and did it. It was so awesome. You're like, okay, well, I threw down some basic tracks, and you played it note for note with as close to the same sound as you could manage. And my heart grew 3 sizes. I'm telling you, it made me so happy.
He gave him the knife.
Exactly. It was exactly that. And you didn't even tell me in advance. You just dropped the bomb on me, and it was awesome. So I appreciate it. So my question for you on The Big Truth is it a worthy 7th song?
That is a tough question.
Yeah. And you don't get to bow out on this one because, you didn't write it or anything. You have a lot of skin in the game at this point. So you got to be thinking about this as something you want to stand by, because it's not too late. We can change the track listing.
We can change the order. River Song's definitely not
good. Yes, well.
And maybe that gives River Song the reason to stay at track 6, just to keep this one at track 7.
Right.
It does have enough credentials to be a track 7 on its progressive rock credits alone.
All right. Good to know. But I will say, so this, in my opinion, is where the switch flipped, because I was a little trepidatious about asking you to do work on Big Truth. There were just some things I couldn't live with, because we were thinking about making it an as-is track. But I brought it up and we decided to do it. And then when it came to the next track, which we also were thinking was going to be an as-is track, you were the one who came to me and said, no, it can't stand. We have to redo this one too. And that is We Are One.
We are the calm before the storm. We are the answers.
The switch did flip at that point. I will concede your argument there, because I had already mastered the original version of this one. I was ready to just push it out.
Yeah.
And we did Big Truth. The snowball was rolling down the hill at that point, and We Are One was in the way. And I kind of thought it was just going to be crushed by the snowball. It had to be reinforced in ways so it could handle the ride.
Yeah, it was close. I'd say it was somewhere around 80% there. There were a few performance problems with the vocal, and of course there were mixing problems because of the technology of the time and what we were up against. There was only so much you could do without access to the, tracks themselves. So, but it's a sort of an affirmation of our commitment that even one that was that close to being good enough, we decided, no, good enough is not good enough. We really need to do it. And I'm so glad we did, because this is my favorite track on the record again. I just, and it's always been a special song to me for lots of reasons besides the recording of it. But I am just so happy with what you made happen on this track. It's just magical. How did you do it?
The funny thing about that is I didn't do anything. If you think about the instrumentation that's there, I played what was already played. We did have to re-record quite a bit of the song. We really only had the drums available, but everything else that went on top of it, the keys, the guitars, all of that stuff, I almost played it verbatim to the original. There were some slight arrangement tweaks to it. There were several electric guitar tracks. I didn't think we needed them. So it was just a little more acoustically driven with some electric reinforcement. But the raw bones of it were already there 20 years ago. It just didn't have enough, like you said, due to some of the recording limitations of the time. I don't think it made it quite to what it was. But we really just had to take what was already there and amp it up a little bit.
Yeah, just polish it up.
There is one other thing I would say on this one, and it's something I think that you and I should recognize. We have kept this effort pretty small as far as people contributing. It's mostly been you and I doing the effort, with some notable contributions by John Flanders, who's done a wonderful job in his way, and Rick Kreifeldt, whose upcoming work will be revealed soon.
Spoilers, lol.
But there is also an unsung hero in this effort, and that hero is James Clark.
Yeah. Yep.
I have been so impressed in going through these songs. We've taken these old recordings and tried to renovate them and restore them, with the one consistent thing that we have available being the drums. And those parts are well thought out. They're serving the songs. They're incredibly well played, and they're standing up to the rigors that we're putting them through 20 years later. And I'm pretty impressed with that.
Yeah, it sits right there alongside what we're doing. It doesn't feel like it's getting, like the drums are there, but they're being buried under all of this better production or whatever. And this track, I think I even like this performance more than In Between. In Between maybe wins in a photo finish because it's so creative and different, but the drum performance on this song is just so beautiful. And you were talking about how you just sort of followed the blueprint that was there, but somehow bringing James to the forefront, and then just the way you captured the acoustic sounds and everything. I mean, it sounds like guys in a room. The whole thing sounds as fresh as if we recorded it from scratch today, which, I mean, a lot of it we did, but you know what I mean? And yet it still has that organic nature to it, where it doesn't sound overproduced. It sounds like it could be a recording from 1976 or whatever, but it sounds like dudes in a room, and it's pretty awesome. I just was so happy with how it came out. And like I said, this song is special to me. It was one of the first songs. I wrote the song with Rick Kreifeldt in the Rain Kings 25 years ago. It was his music and my lyrics. And it was one of the first times that I really felt like I put my whole heart into a lyric, that I had something personal I wanted to say, and I said it the way I wanted to say it. And when it was done, I was satisfied. It might be the first time that ever happened to me, as opposed to just, well, we'll just toss this off, or well, we're being creative, or, well, Rick and I wrote a lot of songs together, and some of them were his lyrics, some of them were mine, some of them we were collaborating on. But even when I was writing lyrics, until this song came around, it was just like, what are some rock song lyrics that go with this riff type of thing? But this was me expressing myself in that way that you always, when you want to be a songwriter, when you start out wanting to be a songwriter, you always hope that you're going to get there at some point where that's what it's about. And it was a sort of early peek at the notion that I actually could accomplish that. Not to mention, it's just this unabashedly sentimental song, which is not like me at all. That is all to say that I'm as proud of this song as I ever was as a song. And now I'm proud of it as a production too. And I'm really happy that we could make it happen. So I'm glad that the switch flipped for you, my friend.
And I'm glad that you're glad.
And then we come to track number 9, appropriately titled 9 Lives.
Don't try to tie him down with balls of yarn, brightly colored, cause he'll be slinking round.
It's almost like you planned that.
Yeah. Don't leave spontaneity to chance, like the man says.
Yeah. What to say about 9 Lives? It's a big flip from the previous track.
It is, although it's musically very similar in that it's basically the same 3 chords, right?
Just played in an entirely different way.
It's an entirely different, and this is, we haven't talked a lot about Rick Kreifeldt, but Rick was, the sort of the band leader and chief songwriter of this band I was in, the Rain Kings, and he was a good mentor. I learned a lot from Rick, especially about simplicity. He could really make a meal out of 3 chords. And this is a great example of it, because it's essentially just E, A, B, just like We Are One is E, A, B for the most part, just with a couple of little incidental things. But you change the attitude, you change the melody, you do all that kind of stuff with it, and you can make something that's just as satisfying in a completely different way. So yeah, it's a different experience, this song. And we made it even more so. I think we steered into the skid pretty hard on this song has to have its own personality.
This one was a little tricky to attack production wise in terms of this effort, because I had more to work with than I have with anything else. We actually have guitars for this one that are the original guitars to go along with the original drum track. And I thought it was worthwhile to keep those in and try and work within the framework of what we already had for this one.
Those guitars were originally played by, I feel bad that I don't actually know. I'm going to just say it's all John Clark, because I know it's
prove us wrong.
Yeah, prove us wrong,
whoever you were.
Because there were 3 guitar players on the original record. There was John did most of the guitar on the original record, but Eric Peterson, the producer of the album, also played quite a bit of electric guitar on it, and also Sean Durant, who we'll talk about later, put in an appearance here and there. He did the original solo on The Big Truth. So I think it's safe to say that these guitars were John. So I thought it was cool that we could, we managed to save some of that and keep it in there. James and John Clark, no relation, by the way, just in case anyone out there was wondering. We used to say that all the time on stage, and it never, ever, ever, ever got a laugh.
That's assuming they were even listening.
Yeah. So yeah, this song has a really different personality, and this is it's a song that Rick and I wrote together, but it's much more his vibe than it is mine for the most part. And so I found myself kind of trying to remember back to what it was like to play this song with him. And that led to actually recruiting him for the track, which was a lot of fun too. When we played this song back in the day, we really had fun with it live. And we had this thing at the end where we had an extended jam where I did the lead vocal on the song, and then Rick would do this big spoken rant. And it was all about like those Tom and Jerry cartoons where they force feed Tom the castor oil. And it was a whole rant about, don't give me any castor oil. And sometimes it would go on for quite a while, and it'd be like, when Alex Lifeson would step up to the mic during La Villa Strangiato, and the band would just have to keep vamping until he decided he was done. And it was a lot of fun to do. And I thought if we could bring Rick back and just do a sort of a truncated version of that on the record, that would seal the deal for me as far as capturing the spirit of the song. So happily he agreed to do it, and I really love the way it came out. But there were all other kinds of weird left turns that you decided a mini Moog synth for the solo sections, which I did not remotely see coming. What led you to that?
I didn't want to pick up a guitar. The keyboards were closer.
The keyboard was the closest instrument to your hand at the moment. And so you just went that way.
Well,
okay.
There were already 3 guitars on there too. I felt okay with leaving that, and there was no need for me to contribute more guitar. I just thought it would be funner to crank up a really creamy old synth sound and steer into it.
And when you take that kind of synth sound, it's easy to sort of think prog or whatever when you're doing that. But in a song like this, it takes on a different character, and it made me think of like the Cars.
Yeah.
And a lot of sort of early 80s, late 70s new wave stuff that had these chunka guitars with a totally loopy analog synth over the top. And it just gave the whole thing such a different character. It delighted me. Actually, Tim Hollinger sang this song in concert whenever Sons of Nothing would play it. It was a vocal that I just felt, I was never as comfortable with it as I wanted to be. And so not unlike Still Believe, which you ended up singing, I just, gave it to Tim to do it. And Tim embodied the attitude of this song just really, really well. So I tried to take some of that and reinvest it in the song when I redid the lead vocal. And I think it's a better vocal than the original. Yeah. Plus we came up with some cool backing vocal stuff that wasn't on the original. And this was another success. We're barely keeping ahead of that snowball. Not 9 weeks running. How about that? We have 2 songs left. And after those 2 songs are up, we will come back and we'll talk to you some more. So thank you very much for watching and listening, both to this and to the tracks. We're sticking this on the playlist with our other commentary tracks and everything else. You can get them all here on YouTube. And while you're here, if you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel, hit that, smash that thing. Don't literally smash, that would be bad. But please like and subscribe, because this is going to be over in a couple of weeks, but we have more stuff coming. We have stuff in the vaults we're working up, getting ready to unleash. And of course, there's always new music brewing too. And you never know when something cool is going to come around. So we would appreciate your presence and your patronage on these video premises.
Thank you very much. We're glad you enjoyed it.
Talk to you later. Rock and roll kind of awakening that I had listening to it, where sirens, drink. Let's we're gonna
and
cut
my phone's beeping too, so
yeah. All right. Oh, I should put on my do not disturb. No, I'm not gonna. We might be disturbed.
We're already disturbed. There is hold on, my brain's it's late at night.
Yeah, it's okay. Play through the pain, like the days of old and the men of yore.
Oh my goodness, I need a drink.
And that is We Are One,
or as I call it, the Folgers commercial.
Do explain.
When we were playing this song ages ago live, every time I heard the intro of that song, 11:46 by my watch, my back breaks slowly, but the best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I forgot about that. That's awesome. Right on. Okay.
All right. Here we go.
All right.
I'm punchy today.
Bro.
We may have outtakes today.
Yes. We have several already, I think.
Okay.